Well, I hope you guys are recovering well from the Metroid Prime 4 news because, to be honest, I'm still kinda down in the dumps. After all, it is my most anticipated game of all time. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. I thought I would never be as excited for a game in the same way as I was for Breath of the Wild, but Prime 4 is just something else entirely. I know this delay and Retro Studios being involved will make the game even better, but I still can't help but feel disappointed that I have to wait even longer now.
Don't worry, Joseph. Besides, it is more likely than ever that we'll now be getting an open-air Zelda or a 3D Mario game before Metroid Prime 4.
Huh, you don't say. Well, I guess I do feel a little better now.
Even though the delay of Metroid Prime 4 stings, since the game was so far away from us, it doesn't change much for Nintendo's already amazing 2019 first-party lineup, consisting of, but not limited to Yoshi's Crafted World, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Luigi's Mansion 3, Animal Crossing, and the new Pokemon RPG. And those are just the games that have been announced so far. Just think of what we could see in the next Nintendo Direct, or E3. Even without those announcements, you simply cannot deny that this will be the Switch's biggest year since 2017, and maybe even surpass it. But of course, Metroid Prime 4 is arguably one of the Switch's most anticipated titles, no matter if it's been delayed for many years to come. While Metroid isn't Nintendo's most successful franchise, it has a highly passionate fanbase, as demonstrated by Joseph here. Many fans were understandably disappointed by the news that Nintendo decided to restart development with Retro Studios at the helm, but the reception of this update was greeted with understanding, which is great. Nintendo's transparency on the matter was a breath of fresh air and needs to be commended, and the fact that they are willing to restart a game that was probably 2 years in development goes to show how determined they are to give Metroid fans the game they deserve.
Rumors and speculation have pointed to Bandai Namco as the developers of the scrapped Metroid Prime 4, but at this point, it doesn't really matter who the original team was, because whatever they were doing wasn't working in the eyes of Nintendo. Apparently multiple studios across the globe were working on different parts of the game, and it didn't pan out the way they were hoping. Either way, it doesn't look like we'll be seeing anything from the original ideas. It seems that, in an act of desperation, Nintendo turned the project over to the original creators of the Prime trilogy, Retro Studios. A move that made plenty of fans happy. Rumor even has it that they approached Nintendo with a concept demo of what they can do with Metroid Prime 4, but we may never find out if that's true or not. Now, why didn't they give the project to Retro to begin with? Chances are, it's because they were too busy working on another game, a game which at this point we will probably see revealed and released this year, whether it's the heavily rumored Star Fox Grand Prix or something else entirely. Retro's current involvement with Prime 4 hints that whatever they've been working on for the past 5 years is done or very close to completion. That said, we've heard some people express concerns about Retro Studios' involvement with the game. The big one being that most key members of the Prime trilogy have left since the completion of 3. Some went on to make Halo games at 343 Industries, and others founded Armature Studio, known mostly for their game Recore. Granted, some of the members from the Prime days are still there, like the president Michael Kelbaugh, but some people don't have faith that the new Retro Studios can make a worthy successor to the Prime trilogy.
Honestly, we understand the concerns, but there isn't that much of a reason to worry, because Kensuke Tanabe, the producer of the original Prime trilogy at Retro Studios and Nintendo, is still involved with the project. Ultimately, just like with Prime 1 in the early 2000s, it will be Retro Studios' job to execute his vision of what Metroid Prime 4 should be. Obviously, it will still be a collaborative effort, and each member of the team will contribute with their own ideas, but most of the weight will still be on Kensuke Tanabe's shoulders. In short, he's to Metroid Prime what Eiji Aonuma is to Zelda. Hey, speaking of Zelda, it looks like we might see the next Zelda game before Metroid Prime 4's release. Now that will definitely be something to hold us over during the wait. And we're not just talking about a mere spin-off Zelda game, Skyward Sword HD remaster, or a top-down Zelda game for the Nintendo Switch, but the next open-air successor to Breath of the Wild. And while we're at it, how about the successor to Super Mario Odyssey? Do you think seeing all of these games before Metroid Prime 4 would be too ambitious? Here's why it's not. For one, let's consider how long it might take Retro Studios to complete and release Prime 4. Will it even be a Nintendo Switch title at this point? Yes, but a rather late one. one that we suspect will come out either in fall 2021, spring 2022, or at the very latest fall 2022. Because as much as Nintendo doesn't want to rush Metroid Prime 4, they also don't want it to take so long that it ends up as a swan song for the Switch in say early 2023.
If we look at history, each Metroid Prime game has taken 2 to 3 years to develop. Prime 1 and 2 took 2 years, but that wasn't without a serious amount of crunch time. Nintendo, please don't overwork Retro Studios again. Prime 3 on the other hand took longer because it took them a year to fine-tune the motion controls. Plus, working with new hardware always adds to the time. Assuming Retro already has experience working on the Switch with the Tropical Freeze port, as well as their new upcoming mystery Switch title, then that part of the development has been completed. Still, they have a ton of work to do, and assuming they began development earlier this month or December-November of last year, then fall 2021 is a pretty realistic expectation. That is, unless they're planning to do something incredibly ambitious with Prime 4, which, at this rate, probably isn't happening. There are going to be new additions, sure, but Metroid has always been a tight and focused gameplay experience and not a massive story-based open-world adventure.
So fall 2021 or spring 2022, assuming the core conventions of Metroid Prime aren't drastically changed in fall. So where do we see a new open-air Zelda or 3D Mario fit between now and then? Most likely fall 2020 or even spring 2021. We know that both are under development and have been in the works since late 2017, a whole year longer than the restarted Metroid Prime 4. Now, the development cycle of Zelda is usually longer than that of Metroid's, but this time they don't have to develop a new game engine from the ground up. With that in mind, and the fact that the complicated physics engine massively delayed Breath of the Wild, the development should be much more streamlined for the follow-up, which will likely reuse many of the now established and otherwise existing assets, and rather focus on in-game content. To some extent, the same goes for 3D Mario after Super Mario Odyssey. It would essentially be a repeat of Super Mario Galaxy 2, where they created the engine for the first game and reused it again for the follow-up with even bigger and better ideas that they weren't able to fit in the original title. We wouldn't be surprised if we see an Odyssey sequel sooner rather than later, next year or sometime in 2021. Now, if the original plan was for Metroid Prime 4 to have a 2020 release, will a new Zelda or Mario have to take its place? This would be an ideal scenario, but there are still other Nintendo franchises that have yet to make a return or at least show up on the system. Say a new Mario Kart, or following Mario Kart 8's DLC and deluxe inclusion of non-Mario characters and Nintendo Kart? Or how about Bayonetta 3 finally? But the bigger question is, where's Pikmin 4? Truth to be told, the Switch has a slew of potential games this year, and most likely next year that will make Switch owners happy and hold over Metroid fans until Metroid Prime 4.
But you know what would make Metroid fans really happy? The original Prime trilogy remastered in HD for the Nintendo Switch. We've been talking about it ever since Prime 4's announcement, and now it seems all but guaranteed at this point, with numerous sources claiming that it's already been made and Nintendo is finding the appropriate time to release it. The development update of Prime 4 must have complicated things further on when to release the Prime Trilogy HD. Chances are we're going to hear about this remaster in the next Direct, while Metroid is still on the minds of many people. Even then, maybe the Prime Trilogy won't be the only Metroid-related game coming out on the Switch before Prime 4. What if we also get a Samus Returns remaster in HD, or better yet, a new 2D Metroid from the same developers, Mercury Steam? That would be awesome, but it might lead to some exhaustion. So if we had to choose one, Prime Trilogy HD is the way to go, in order to catch up players who've never experienced the trilogy, as well as to tide over current fans.
In the end, we know Metroid Prime 4 is coming, and when it does, it will definitely be better than what the scrap project was going to be. Until then, we would put money on there being a brand new 3D Mario or open-air Zelda game in 2020, maybe even alongside Bayonetta 3 or a new Mario Kart. However, if we got all 4 of these games in the same year, then 2020 would officially be better than 2019 or even 2017.
Until then, if you would like to hear us talk more about the next Zelda game, then make sure to check out our series after Breath of the Wild, and more specifically when the next Zelda game will arrive. We also have a new episode coming out this Saturday, so stay tuned.
I'd also like to thank you all for watching today's episode here on the Commonwealth Realm. I'll admit, writing this episode helped make me feel a little better about Metroid Prime 4's delay, well, a lot better actually, and I hope it has made you feel better as well. So, when do you think Metroid Prime 4 is coming out, and what do you want to see in Metroid Prime 4? Let us know in the comment section down below. In the meantime, be sure to click that thumbs up button if you liked this video, and if you are new, subscribe and hit that notification bell to know when we upload another video about Metroid, Zelda, Mario, and other Nintendo franchises.
We'd also like to extend gratitude to our patrons, including royal producer Kenyatta Ali and Patreon hero Holly Wolf. If you would like to help us fund our bigger productions in exchange for some awesome perks and access to our Patreon exclusive podcast, then visit patreon.com/commonrealm. Until then, girls and guys, we will see you next time on the Commonwealth Realm.